Welcome to the Recharge podcast with myself, Connor McSorley, and my good wife, Danielle McSorley.
Get your fix. It's episode 6. Time for the happy pod. Let's go!
So happy World Autism Day to everybody. Today is World Autism Day, the 2nd of April. By the time this goes out, I think it'll maybe be the 3rd of April, but this episode is going to be on celebrating autism. So what is autism?
That's on me, I think. Well, we'll give our perspective as parents. We have an autistic child and he is just a wee dote. He's the light of our life, that wee man. We have 6 children, 1 son, and he's autistic. So we're not fully qualified in anything really, but we can just give our opinion as parents, I think. Just want to say that before I say something wrong. Autism is ASD, you might have heard, autism spectrum disorder, and it is a lifelong developmental disorder whereby they have issues with social, intellectual and emotional behaviours and basically navigating the world, because I think we've all realised at this point the world's more catered to neurotypical people like ourselves. Well, me anyway.
I want to preface this first of all by saying this episode is going to be about autism, but don't tune out just because you maybe don't understand it or have no interest in it. We're going to try and make it as interesting as possible for people who maybe have no coming or goings with anybody who's autistic, because up until we had our son, we never really had very much coming and goings with anybody that was diagnosed with autism. Although since that there's a few people that we know we would suspect that they probably have autism. They're in their later years and they love trains. No, I'm only joking, but they have...
It's Connor.
No, but they have... It's like 1 or 2 of them I've chatted to, and they've said themselves, yeah, I think I maybe have autism because
even on social
the way
media,
they think of the world.
Connor, on social media, I see a lot, maybe it's my For You page, but a lot of people are getting diagnosed later in life, not just because they might have children and then go, hold on, they have autism, I think the same as them. Mm-hmm. It's just they realise, I always felt different. There's actually a girl in my class, I reconnected with her there in school, and she's now diagnosed with autism and ADHD. And I remember, I said to her myself, I was like, oh, funny, I just thought you were just different. I never thought anything of it. And an example, just so you don't tune out, whenever I was growing up, this is maybe too honest, I don't know, but I want to say it. My mummy always worked with special needs and autism and all forms of special needs. And mummy would say to me that I always got scared because I didn't know, I'd never been around special needs or autism or anything. And if we went out and about and mummy met one of the children that she worked with, I would nearly hide behind her leg when I was younger. And it's funny now, all I can talk about is I don't just want to raise awareness, because Autism Awareness Month is important. But I think recently we'll talk about it in a minute, the SEN scheme being cancelled for our child, and then there was funding cut for autism for employment. We realised that awareness isn't enough. We need to talk about it. We need to make it the conversation where we all know, look, it's okay to ask questions and interact. And do you feel the same?
Yeah, I think that awareness isn't cutting it anymore, and there needs to be a step up. In light of those cuts, we've seen political people from all across the spectrum, every political party calling out that it wasn't good enough and it needs to be challenged. So awareness and being aware is one thing, but you touched there a minute ago on how does everybody interact with people with special needs, or in this case we're talking solely about autism. It's not to be, especially young children, it's not to be afraid that if you want to know how to act around people who've got autism, you don't treat them any differently. Treat them with respect and look at how their siblings or people who are close to them treat them. That's generally how you treat people. It's the same as a neurotypical person. Just treat them with respect.
I always think that if the siblings are there, I'll stand my ground on that. You look at the siblings, they'll know how to treat them. They'll not mollycoddle them, we would say.
Yeah.
But if, for example, somebody will get into it, but you can have a sensory seeker and a sensory avoidant. So it's a case, a sensory seeker is our child. Loves anything, textures, feels, very, very sensory, whereas sensory avoidance, maybe, at the start he didn't want to get his hair cut, or maybe doesn't like touch or doesn't like being too close, doesn't like you in the personal space. So in them cases, I would think, say you met somebody that is autism that's a sensory avoidant.
Get really up in their face, and I'm only joking.
No, gauge off their body language, and if a caregiver, if somebody knows them's there, you can go and ask the questions. Because what I would say as a parent, now our child is pre-verbal, so that's maybe different again, but you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders carrying, you want to represent them right. You feel like you need to make sure that they are, you're their voice for everybody.
they're heard.
But whenever somebody, even the political parties standing up, it feels like they're standing up for the parents. Whenever somebody comes over and asks the questions and gets involved and engaged, I'm going, thank you.
Aye.
Because you're helping me help you.
I can only give my perspective on what we have learned as parents from having a child who has autism. Now, ours is different because some people can be autistic. They can be what would be typically described as high functioning, where they're autistic and they carry autistic traits, etc. But they can navigate the world easily enough. And I want to make that clear, that no autistic person navigates the world easy, but they can navigate it easier than somebody with maybe a severe learning difficulty or something like that, where there's a lot more nuances to it. It's very difficult for us to talk about autism, given that part of what Blake has is also a severe learning difficulty. So we're looking at things that might actually be a trait of him having a severe learning difficulty, and it mightn't actually be an autistic trait. So we are trying not to make this episode about the aspect of his behaviour, which is a severe learning difficulty. We're trying to talk about the aspect of his behaviour that is autism, how we found it, what were the signs, and how we're trying to navigate that. I don't know if that makes sense. But
I think it's important to say now autism is a spectrum. So there's different levels. They used to diagnose, actually, it used to be in levels of, like, there was Asperger's, where you were, as you described there, high function. It's not that they find it easier, but they maybe are able to go through mainstream and struggle still with emotional, intellectual things like that. But now it's just one diagnosis for all, which in a way I understand, but it's maybe more confusing for people that are neurotypical and maybe don't have to, come in contact with anybody with autism through their life. They maybe don't understand it. But yeah, from our perspective, we only know autism in terms of a severe learning difficulty. So we're going to try our best to navigate that and hopefully
separate them.
Because we want to celebrate World Autism Day, and April is obviously Autism Awareness Month.
I penned an open letter to the EA, we'll get into that, and it was class to see everyday people, just friends of mine who I know would have never really had to deal with autism or special needs or any of that kind of thing in their life or close family, coming out and supporting it, signing petitions and saying this is wrong and talking about it on social media. I'm like, that's class. Like, you don't have to do any of that, and you're stepping forward to help people like me or parents like me. And I keep telling you, I feel like we're one of the lucky ones. We're lucky that we have each other. There's people who maybe don't have the same support network. One of the things that I had said in the letter was how that I think that they took for granted that people were going to be tired. Special needs parents, they're tired because genuinely sometimes the children don't sleep very well. So you're getting 3 and 4 hours sleep sometimes, and then to get up and see that somebody has cut the legs from beneath you again, and you're like, I have to fight for my child, but God, I'm tired. You're not alone. Actually, you look around and you're seeing friends from school you haven't seen in years, and they're putting on their Facebook a petition that they've just signed. And I know that they don't have any special needs people in their family. I'm like going, that's brilliant. You're stepping out of your zone to do that, which is it's something where I'm talking about awareness isn't cutting it. People need to step forward and do that. And it's not the only cause in the world. We've got the Palestinian cause. Genocide is happening. Absolutely abhorrent, disgusting. But it's not a case that you can't do one and do the other. I mean, you should be standing up for what's right, no matter what the cause is. So it's really, really brilliant to see people stepping forward. Really promising as well. Promising for change. It's funny how one day there was absolutely no chance of it coming back, and the very next day, the power of people coming together.
What I found, and it is just so lovely to watch, is everybody came together on that. Everybody. And I said it, and it maybe sounds funny, but it is literally a case of we write it down. Everybody goes. And there's actually another one I want to mention because it's only on Facebook. I haven't seen it on TikTok. Somebody commented it to look up Caleb's Cause. I think it's on Facebook, Caleb's Cause. It's about, which will be important to us. Now, I said earlier, before I get on to that, I done a video earlier on autism, and people go, awareness isn't cutting it. But people are only aware, like, we're all living our life. We're aware because we're living it.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't go too hard on people that don't understand if it's not in front of them.
No,
this is why we talk more, we bring awareness, and then we get the change. It's not just, I know every day is Autism Day for us, but it's important to understand that people are living different lives. Like, I don't know, there's Caleb's Cause. It's not relevant to me yet because our son's not that age, but I'm going, I need to get on that because it's for the older age. It's what happens when they get older. It's not just a case of summer scheme. It's a case of what are we doing for our older autistic children? So we need to look at that and get on that. It's important.
That's it. It's not their lived experience. It's not their life. And that's what I'm saying. It's great to see people who have got shit going on in their lives. Everybody's got things going on in their lives, and they're like, I'd love to support you and all, but I can't. I'm just tired. I'm building a house. I'm doing this. I'm doing. I get all that. You're not asking people to come out and, save the world for you. You're just asking for a sign of a petition or something like that. No matter what it is, if I strongly believe in something or I think that it's the right thing to do, I'll sign 200 petitions a year. And I don't actively go to a lot of rallies because I physically can't. I'm very busy a lot of the time, and I know that can be seen as an excuse. And maybe it is, maybe I need to do more. We're all human, but I do sign a lot of petitions.
On another note, now will affect us as well. I haven't had to think of yet, is Eric Roberts.
Seen it.
Was done,
Yeah.
The interview where, I can't remember what it was called. It's what will happen when I die.
Yeah.
And that one's a hard one for me. I seen Erin McGregor actually talk as well about her son Harry. He's maybe slightly younger than Blake.
Yeah.
And she's putting plans in place for that. And this is something, now, I'm trying not to get emotional on this podcast because I want it to be upbeat.
It's something that, what is 5 minutes into the podcast, and we're talking about one of the darkest things that I have to deal with.
It's just another thing that's important, an awareness that people maybe don't think of or should actually. Like, as an autism parent, I didn't think about it until I seen Erin talking about it and I'm going, oh, we need to gear up for that.
I'm probably different in that it's something I've thought about every day since Blake's diagnosis, without exception, every day. And let's take one. But anyway, look, we want to celebrate autism. So we
talk about the signs.
That's where it starts, I suppose. I don't know what you want to talk about in this because we didn't really discuss it very well. Again, one of the things I want to touch on, there's an expectation in young men to carry their family and this old-fashioned thing, and a lot of it's nonsense, but men still do feel it. And then there's that stiff upper lip mentality where you got to get on with it sort of thing and don't talk about it and all that. I've got to be careful that, because we got two diagnoses. We got a diagnosis that Blake was autistic, and we got a diagnosis that he had a severe learning difficulty. And I want to make sure that I'm not talking about the grief of the severe learning difficulty because it's so much harder to deal with that part.
Yes.
Whenever you're a father and a mother and you get the news that your child is autistic, you'll ultimately go straight to the negative thoughts of all of that. That's just
panic.
human nature, the panic. And I want to talk about that a wee bit, and I've got to be careful that that doesn't seep into the second part of the diagnosis, because the feelings of one are totally different from the other. And today we're celebrating
I think that's okay.
Autism Day, so I think that I want to touch on it, but not leave it too heavy. So
okay, we'll start then with the signs of autism from our perspective, because as I said, we're not educated. We didn't do degrees in this. We can only talk from our child has autism. Yeah. And I know they don't diagnose this anymore. He wouldn't be high functioning autism. No. So it began for us. We had our wee man. And neurotypically normal, I would say. I would say we always looked for any differences because my mummy, as I said, worked with special needs. So it was always the answer in their name and things like that, because one of the first signs that we were aware of is they would mention hearing loss. They would say oh, your child won't turn for their name. And the first thing they actually done for us, this in our case, I'm not sure if it's every case, is send Blake for a hearing test.
Yeah.
So he was sent, and whenever you'd be like, Blake, and he would not turn around, just completely glued to what he was doing. Which actually, I also found out children under a certain age can only focus on one task. So if they don't turn around to you, sometimes they're just hyper-focused on that task. Maybe it's developmental. Maybe
he's just like you, he was just been ignorant. We don't know. Sometimes I
What are you laughing at, Nathan?
Sometimes I say to you, Danielle, and you just ignore
I just
me.
Can't deal with your SH1T show,
That could be, that's it.
But anyway, Blake was neurotypical right up from what we could see until maybe about a year and a half. Because I just remember specifically from my perspective, I finished my degree and it was before Christmas, and it just clicked in my head. I went, whoa, he's regressed. I just knew the terminology from knowing about autism at that stage. He's regressed. He doesn't say mama or dada anymore. So that's where we got to at 2. And then I had the health visitor appointment, maybe like 2.5. And I mentioned it, and she goes, don't worry, he's a quiet child, which Blake is.
Yeah.
He's a quiet child. So you could,
passive.
at that stage, you could have missed it. But I knew from having our daughters before that, he doesn't know, which was a developmental normal stage. He doesn't know the cow says moo, things like that. So first thing you're referred for, speech and language. This I found hard as the speech and language was actually, just by chance you're put somewhere, it's not a specific location. He was actually put in his special needs school. That was his first appointment. And I remember, which I feel guilt for now, but you can only, how you feel, walking in and being like, oh, like, oh, why am I in here? Like, why is he in here? He's not going to special school. Like, he's fine. If he's at this stage, I knew he was autistic. It was in my head. I was like, he shouldn't be here. He's like, he's going to be fine. Maybe a classroom assistant, done speech and language. Once he had a motivator, he turned around, speeding it up anyway. They check hearing. So the first sign was hearing, checking if there's any hearing loss. So he didn't turn for his name, and he didn't come if you called him or said anything like that there. That was the first time we noticed.
Yeah.
And he stimmed, so he like shook a lot, which also is a thing for children at that age. It's very hard.
Sometimes I do
that. Sometimes you still do that. And like covering his ears, didn't like loud noises. If you remember.
That was another one.
Yeah, and didn't like getting his hair cut. So he's more sensory avoidant at that point. Ate completely normally, because food can also be an issue. And all of a sudden stopped eating anything of relevance. It was very beige, which is a massive sign. And didn't talk, stopped all words, didn't know to put something in the bin, which is just something we were aware of. I think if he was our first child, it would be harder to grasp, but we were like, this isn't, like, he should know by now.
We had a reference point, I suppose. And also, I remember wee small things, like these are silly things, but we had the counting book, like counting 1 to 10.
I love this story.
And he would go 1, and he would do that, and he'd go 2, and he would do that. He'd get up to like the number 6, and we got to number 6. I'll do this on camera, because when we got to number 6, he would go, and then, like, say there's the book there, like, right, he would go, as if he was like taking the page and throwing it away. It was so bizarre. And he'd done the same for 7. Then he got to 8, 8, 9. He would say them again, just them 2 numbers, 6 and 7.
6 and 7. You know that on purpose.
I did not
7,
know
8, 9. But that's funny, because I'm saying he lost his words, which he did, but he got his numbers. Blake could count to like 250.
Aye, his number, like even still, like Blake's, I suppose we would say pre-verbal, and I don't want to talk too much about individually what Blake has or doesn't have. It's not.
I suppose it's signs. People have asked me, and I haven't done a video because I find it hard. Like, that's, if anybody's messaged me asking for signs of autism, I find it very hard to talk about it. And not from, just because I don't want to do him a disservice. Like, I want to get it right.
Aye, but it's such a tricky one to talk about, because you don't want to make all your content about, just, you don't want to depress people where you're just telling them, like, how difficult things are. But they are difficult at times.
But you want to help.
But there's also so much joy with Blake, with all our children, with every child, there's loads of joy too. So, and you also, I don't have a massive following like that, and not that you have a massive following, but you have a platform of sorts. Everybody has a platform. You have a reasonable sized platform. It's nice to help somebody if it's something that you know could help them. You don't want to not say it. And then if you just talk about that, then it's only talking about that. And you're also aware that if you're coming up on someone's For You page every third or fourth day, and you're saying the same thing, you're saying, we've got 6 children, and we've got our son's got autism.
That's him give me criticism here. Do you feel that?
It's not that. It's like,
can you stop saying you have 6 children, please?
But do you know what I mean? People are coming across that, and they're thinking, oh, that's all she talks about. You can know, but I have to say this because somebody else mightn't have seen the video, and I'm getting to something here, and I want to get to the point where I'm explaining how this part of our life's a wee bit tricky, but it's grand. We manage it, and sometimes it's not grand. Sometimes I suppose, back onto the signs, I have a really bad memory. So I remember the likes of the wee book thing, but I think I remember that because we had like wee videos and stuff.
You will remember, do you remember? Now, we didn't know any better. We were trying, we thought it was the right thing to do, but in hindsight, like if we had another child like that, we would maybe know more. You know more, you do better when you know more.
Aye.
Remember us trying to get him to wear, like, he loved Paw Patrol, and we tried to get a wee onesie Paw Patrol, and he would not put it on. We have a video, and I'm like, oh, Blake, put it on, it's okay. And it was just avoidant of certain clothes, certain things, as much as, and he's still like this, that if he likes certain characters, like I got a pile of Mario stuff for him one day because he loved Mario, and put that away. I suppose we're all notionable. Everybody has notions. With autism, there probably is a wee bit more notions, and that it's more regiment, I think, where they like structure. Do you know what's one? Which you'll remember this too. Do you remember like the alphabet book, which had like A for apple, B for banana? He left it upside down. That's also a sign of autism.
That's right. So you remember these things you tell me, and then I do remember them, but I couldn't remember.
Or the credits. His favourite thing is the credits.
Aye.
You're not allowed to turn it off. That's a big thing. But there's also a thing, like, just speaking of autism in general, it's mostly in females, if I'm right, they can mask. So you might not see it in girls.
Yeah.
And they might get to teenage before you realise. They might seem bossy or...
Was Paddy McGuinness's wife, she was diagnosed late in life, and she said that she learned to mask a lot.
Yeah.
And that's how she got through
Or
life.
to mirror interactions. So your social interactions, I could be sitting here and be like, oh, so I meant to do this now. I meant to just mirror your body language.
Wow.
And no, which is exhausting. That's why a lot of people then come home and have like burnout or come home with autistic meltdowns because they've had to mask all day, which is very, very sad.
People are probably sick of hearing me say
Blind
this,
Boy.
but I listened to the Blind Boy podcast and he was diagnosed later in life.
I listened to that episode actually.
One day he said that part of what he didn't realise until later in life, when he was at a wedding and a boy was carrying a parrot inside his pocket, he realised one day he was like, every wedding I go to, I'm sitting at the table with all these people who are quite different. And he was like, I maybe need to go and get looked at here. So he went then and got checked out, and sure enough, he was autistic. But he found it hard to fit in because he said that he had learnt behaviours, but he'd done a lot of masking and then also a lot of like doing things to try and fit in because he realised he was different.
So we'll talk about the diagnosis. We talked about how we got to the point. So hearing was checked. That was the signs and things like that. So when it came to Blake, you laughing at me? When it came to Blake,
I let the part out where you made the mistake there, but I'll keep this laughing part on it.
When it came to Blake, it took about 2.5 years to get, you know, from, okay, we think he might have ASD to going to get a diagnosis. You have to go to a paediatrician. And the week that you had to also go to a speech and language therapist first. There's a process and get hearing checked. The week of his diagnosis where he would go and get his paediatrician appointment and his ASD appointment was lockdown. So completely closed. And that's one thing I don't know if people are aware. That closed the whole time. I was pregnant at the time and it was coming to the point of...
You ever been pregnant?
Couple of times. How many times do you say that? After Blake was diagnosed, once you get the diagnosis, we get the severe learning difficulty diagnosis first, so that's separate. But whenever we got his autism diagnosis, it was kind of like, here's your diagnosis, take it with you. Good luck. And
It's
if you need
very
anything.
cold.
But there was a Zoom call course that was offered. So I was like, yeah, I'll go on that. Like, I need help. I don't know what to do here. I don't really know anybody with, it's a spectrum. So that was like Blake. Of course, there's many autistic people. My mommy worked with a lot of autistic children, but she was like, Danielle, they're all like, everybody's different. The same way neurotypical people are different, neurodivergent people are different. So whenever we were on this course, I was in a room on the Zoom call with all these people, and the lady taking it says, look, I am actually autistic myself. I be high functioning. And every one of the other parents, I felt like I shouldn't have been on it because it was all seemed to be, you know, more high functioning autistic individual children. So I was sitting there with nothing to say because at this stage Blake was completely non-verbal really.
Yeah.
And I just found it funny that she was like, yep, I done computer science at school. And whenever I looked around, everybody was talking the same things, the same hyperfixations. Then she was like, how long does everybody do computer science? Do they all have autism? It's like,
Massive generalisation there. Hold on a second. Whoa, cancel.
I was laughing. I was like, that's so funny she said that because it would be something I couldn't do because I wouldn't be smart enough. And she says she found comfort in it because there was less social interaction. It was like, let me code this, let me do. And I was like, that's interesting.
Leave you to your devices with your zeros and ones. Just autism heaven, like, you know,
I don't know. I couldn't.
box of trains.
But yeah, that's the signs that there's obviously lots more dependent, and you know, it could later in life, a lot of people are now getting diagnosed. Whenever I was growing up, as I said, I don't know very many autistic people, but it nearly felt like unless you were Blake's level, as in with learning difficulty, it was like push them through, you know, they'll be grand. They're just a wee bit odd.
That's right.
And now I can't say that maybe if our son could have been pushed through, maybe I would have been, don't label him. There's this thing about don't label. But my opinion, and it's very important to give a label if there is one, because you would understand yourself more. I found it hard as a teenager growing up. You did.
The problem you have with don't apply a label, well, who are you not applying a label for? You're not applying a label to your son or daughter who quite clearly needs that label to get the help they need, because your ego is getting in the way. Your ego is, my child will not have special needs. What good is that to the child who needs that extra help?
And it might not be extra help. It could be a case because we all know there's very little help in a lot of regards to understand you. It's a social, emotional, intellectual difficulty. So if you're I found school very hard, and I would have been, you know, teacher's pet, as you'd say, because I would just do what I needed to do. You find it hard to sit in a classroom. You know, if you're sitting there going, I don't know why they're cross at me. I just sit, it's just cues you don't realise, like to not say things like, your hair's not nice like that.
You've got lovely yellow teeth.
Do you know what I mean? And now that's not all children and all individuals or adults, but you need to learn some social behaviours because you find it hard socially. And to not know that about yourself, you're going, why am I so cheeky to people? I'm just telling the truth.
Aye.
And then people to label you as, oh, you're just not nice.
And then you start to mask because you get kickback from it because you never had the label applied so that people don't understand you. And you don't understand you because you think, well, I don't have a label. I'm just normal. Why are they all kicking back on me? No, but you have autism and therefore you're going to be maybe more honest in what you're saying to somebody. They're going to kick back. So you now realise, well, with that autism, we can actually help you to avoid situations where you're getting negative feedback by, it's no different than everybody needs to learn how to, like, our children will learn how to behave in society. We learned how to behave in society. Someone had to teach you that. So with an autistic person where they maybe don't see the cue, you've got to teach them the cue. And that helps them get through life in a world that's not designed for them.
We've seen it with our own children. Because obviously they've grew up with special needs now and autism. You can see, like, our daughters would come home and be like, oh, like, we have autistic people in our class as well. And like, what do you do? They sit down beside us and we ask them what they're eating. And do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a normal interaction. Instead 100%. Of when we were growing up, it was, I'll just leave him or her over there. They're just odd. They're just playing with stones. They're this or that. Instead of going over and going, oh, can we help? Do you want us to play with you? The awareness got us to where we're at now, where we have people supporting us with petitions. It's now the next step is, right, educate yourselves. Let's talk about it a bit deeper. It might be hard for somebody like us that's parents and to know how much we talk about it and it's our individual child. But the more we all talk, the more we know what to do and how we move forward in a world that's not fit for neurodivergent people.
100%. It was a budgie. Wasn't a part. It was a budgie.
Is there any need for, like, the labels there?
No, I just remembered it wasn't a man at the wedding.
Because the blind boy's definitely going to listen to this and go, Connor, he's going to write, that was not, you got it wrong.
I was thinking to myself going, a parrot's far too big to fit inside your blazer pocket. That was in my head there for...
It wasn't in his pocket, it was in the other.
So he sat beside this guy at a wedding. This is when it hit him. He was chatting away to boys and there was some guy beside him and the guy had, like, maybe, I don't know, say his shoelaces were undone or something that would be maybe not completely normal behaviour. And he was like, your man's shoelaces undone. Like, why is he not properly tied or whatever it was? And then later on, he had a few more beers in him, whatever, and the man beside him had a few more beers, and then the man beside him pulls a budgie out of the inside of his coat pocket. A pet budgie. I think it was a pet budgie.
It's like the table I'd like to be at. That sounds like a better crack wedding than any wedding we were at.
Well, hello, can I not be at this table? But he was like, he talks about, and it's the wrong word to use, but he was like, I noticed that when I was invited to weddings and, like, wasn't family, I was always at the lunatic table, the table where people were different. It's just, that's when I was like, hold on a second here. I need to go and get myself checked because this is the table where neurodivergent people seem to be, where somebody hasn't got their shoelaces tied and somebody else is sitting with a budgie in their pocket at a wedding, you know, not the zoo. And he was, well, budgies aren't at zoos, are they? Pet stores.
Just go on ahead, we'll forget about it.
So he... I cut that bit out. I sound so autistic here, the stuff I'm going over. But no, but that was in my head there when I was saying a parrot's too big for your pocket.
Good lad.
So we finished up on...
Good lad. That was the signs, and that was the older generation. I think it's only now, like, for example, we can't comment on, is there more autistic people now? Or are more people getting diagnosed?
Nobody knows because we don't have enough data. That's the bottom line.
This is also for me, right? Now, I'm not going to go into what my stance is on things, but see the way there's a lot of focus on, is there more autistic people now? Are people being misdiagnosed? Are people just getting a diagnosis for nothing? What's the cause of autism? Now, as important as all these things are, we need to focus on how to help the autistic people in this neurotypical world.
Yeah.
Because as I was mentioning earlier about education, it's hard enough as a neurotypical to go through the old school version of education system.
Yeah.
Like, I don't agree with how it is right now. We are lucky in a way. Now, hear me out what I mean by that. Our child is a special needs setting. They are like angels on earth. I couldn't describe more how amazing they are. I think you have the same stance.
Yeah. They're brilliant.
But say our child didn't have the severe learning difficulty and had autism and going to mainstream education. You've seen it. I see it in our daughter's schools, different things, other schools around the same area. It's, what do we do with them? So they need a movement. Okay, we'll give them, they now do movement breaks. Okay, they got a movement break. But they still aren't sitting there. They do, how do we make them do how do we make them conform instead of coming in and going, right, what do we actually have to do here?
I think they try and get a sticky plaster fix to, okay, here's someone who clearly lives in they see the world in a very different way to the way we see the world. And we're trying to make them see the world like us. And I'm going, but why? Just why not let them live in the world? Why don't we accommodate their world instead of trying to change them into ours?
To be honest now, education just came into my head there. They have made changes. Now, not necessarily in regard to autism or SEN or any of that, but there now is Minecraft education, which is actually brilliant. Have you seen our children do it? They've build proper things, which is amazing. That's moving on with the times. That is class.
It's great for people who, for example, like a blind boy or people who are on the autism spectrum who are really creative, who maybe would struggle to make something physically with their hands, woodwork, whatever, but they're really creative in whether it's storytelling, art, building. I know at least one architect who's fully autistic and an incredible architect because their vision is just better than ours.
A master of their craft.
A complete master. And that's what I'm saying. This is why autism is to be celebrated as well.
I'm
as
jealous
it's got difficulties,
of a lot of autistic people.
100%.
I am sorry. I would love to be so good at something. I mean, so good at something. That's what I mean. This is where we find it hard to make sure we're talking about our son in regards to autism and not the severe learning difficulty. Autism, I completely get it.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm going, you're honest. You're not going to lie to me. You genuinely go all in on what you want to do. It's amazing. Because we lose focus. You know what I mean?
Blind Boy talked about, again, my only other real reference point.
Is he your hyperfixation, Connor?
No, but he talked about he loves the fact that he's autistic. Genuinely loves it. At the start, obviously, when he got the diagnosis, it's a bit to deal with and all that. But he says now he realises that he owes his career to autism because he can hyperfixate on something. He can draw a parallel from, we talked about it before, from the Hiroshima bomb to rap music. And he says he'll sit for 5 hours and go through that. And that has created a podcast that I find interesting and listen to. And he says, I literally owe my entire career to autism. Autism is to be celebrated. This is the point.
Yeah.
There's hard parts. The diagnosis is difficult to deal with. As a young man, you get that and you're going, where do I turn? What do I do next? My son, my only son. It's a lot to deal with. But when you recognise that there's parts of it to be celebrated, and that's the thing is, I'm not sure how much, because we're dealing with the special needs side of it, what I would say to any young person or anybody, old person, whatever, you get that diagnosis, I would say, just, if it's only autism, all I can say is I don't have a massively negative experience with Blake having autism. That's not our cross to carry with Blake. It's the special needs side of it. It's difficult. The autism side, that can be a superpower. That's so cheesy and cliche, but it genuinely, he owes his career to it. Think about that.
Sure, you're bound to know the famous people that autism, go on ahead. How have they changed their lives? Electricity.
I'm not sure if electricity was one.
Einstein. Should we look it up?
Was Einstein autistic?
I'm nearly sure he was.
I don't think Einstein
Let's
was
look
autistic.
it up. I'm surprised you haven't done your research. I'm disappointed in this. I was going to give you 40 seconds.
I know the likes of Steve Jobs hinted at it, but never actually said that he was autistic. Elon Musk. But then he said he had Asperger's, which is...
That is autism. It's just they don't diagnose
But again, I don't know if he ever had a diagnosis, and I wouldn't be putting Elon Musk up on a pedestal either.
Einstein was never diagnosed with autism.
I don't think he was.
Really? Who was? Let's get some people. Was it even diagnosed then? Do you know what I mean? Was it diagnosed?
Aye, well, that's true.
Do you know what I mean?
Greta Thunberg.
Activist, amazing.
Yeah, and Sia, the musician, I think she's autistic as well. There's a lot of people that I would say, I would have my doubts about a lot of the incredible musicians. Like Eminem,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm going, hold on a second here. Your vocabulary is
Rap god.
insane.
You
There's no, how are you doing this? And there's a song there I was listening to, and it's dark enough, but it was... No, I'll leave that one for the podcast.
No, we'll leave that one out of this one. But the thing is, too, that's what we're saying, Einstein, probably autistic, but even that's what I'm saying, even when it came to her son, because the things that we knew of autism growing up, it was not celebrated.
No.
It was not a case of, oh, great, somebody's autism. It's like, oh, well, what are we going to do? How do we act? We came to the time of applying for schools. We have to apply for schools for your child. That's completely shut down. I kept ringing. They didn't. Some things opened up again, like speech and language opened again. That shut down. Blake got diagnosed through, it was a new piloting scheme. They asked, did I want to be on it? Because it would be the quickest way to get him diagnosed, where you sent in 5 videos. So it was 5 videos checking, for example, like it was his interaction. We had to sit down and, Blake hand me the coins, and there was 5 videos.
On the living room floor, I remember that.
Yep, emotional ones. It was intellectual and social. So things like that. And I sent that in. The day later, it was just, he's autism.
We knew. Like, I remember saying to you one time, like numerous times.
Oh, we knew.
And I was like, look, there's something not right here. We need to get this checked. And as I say, I don't know whether this is where we're struggling, because I don't know whether it's autism or the special needs.
You'll not remember, so I'll have to tell you. We got his severe learning difficulty diagnosis before. So it opened up, he got that appointment before his autism. It should have been the other way around just because of COVID. So we already got that. Even still, now that was the harder one for me anyway, the severe learning difficulty. But whenever we got his diagnosis in the February, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Even though I was 100% certain, I was like, yep, I know he is. But it's that reality and how it was perceived in the world. It was like, oh no, this world's not fit for him. We're going to have to fight. From now on, it's going to be a case of be his voice, because at that stage he didn't talk. It's going to be, how do we make sure school suits him, because it's not set up necessarily for him. Do you know what I mean? Like, we obviously had a different process with a learning difficulty. It was scary.
One of the big things was because, first of all, there's something very final about a diagnosis. Not to say can't get diagnosis wrong, but it's quite clear now that they didn't. The severe learning difficulty one, whenever that came through, because initially, obviously, you cling to hope. So I was like, he's going to find it severely hard to learn. It's literally in the wording, but he can learn. Then it's only really like this past couple of years where I've been like, you underestimated how severely hard it was going to be for him to learn. With the autism one, the reason that maybe hit me more was because, as you say, back then, and even still, and this is why we're doing podcasts like this.
Raising awareness, we're talking about it, which is very hard because it's our child.
This is why we're doing a podcast about this, is because we're trying to celebrate autism and not have everybody talking about how doom and gloom it is. It's really not. Or we've got 2 things, I say, severe learning difficulty and we've got autism. And the one I think that's causing me difficult times at times is the severe learning difficulty.
I was thinking about this the other day, is wild crack, because we have the girls, we have us, and even the younger ones. Blake's, like, for example, one of his vocal stems is, it's a jingle chopper. So we run around the house and like Connor will go, it's a jingle chopper. And I'll be like, what is it again? Tommy will be like, it's a jingle chopper. And he has so many of them that we all end up saying, and he's silent over there. He's not even stimming, and we're going, it's a jingle chopper to each other.
It's to say autism's to be celebrated, and that doesn't mean that it can't be hard as a parent to watch your child in a different world sometimes. But try and level with them and try and get into their world. See, what are they thinking? What are they seeing? What is it about that train lining up that way? Make it sound as if all they do is line up trains. But what is it about their behaviours that they're finding interesting? And then take that and try and run with it. Like, then you set up trains beside them, and they look at you and they'll be like, oh, you're doing something, you're doing what I'm doing.
Oh, and he's so happy when you do that. When you vocal stem with him, he's like, you understand me. And it's the same way, like, we're all in a rat race. We're all running, we're all trying our best in this life, and it's a lot. But now, as I said, we can only talk from our child's perspective, because we, you know what I mean, we can't talk on behalf of other people other than what we've seen, like, visually. For example, Paddy McGuinness's wife.
Yeah.
Christine, I think McGuinness, is it?
Yeah.
People like that have come out and talked about Mrs. Hinch. I think she's autistic too. Her son's autistic. So for Blake, for example, like, we'd be walking like, come on, we need to go quick. And he'll stop and he'll look, for example, at a bubble. I actually have a photo of him looking into a bubble before we get his diagnosis. This bubble on the ground, a big massive one. And he's looking at all the colours obviously through it. And I'm, come on, and I'm going, hold on, that's cool. Like, that's actually deadly. And I sit down beside him and he's smiling at me sitting down, and then I get sad because I'm like, oh, he just wanted me to sit down with him. And the beauty and the things, it's usually the things when you were a child you seen a lot of the beauty in, like, on his behalf.
I said this to you before, everybody's creative, but it's kind of put out of you as you start rising up through school. You know, don't be playing with cranes anymore. Whoa, Lego, stop that. But Lego is just this unbelievably brilliant creation that we can be creative with. But you're told to stop playing with it at 7. What? Why are we stopping
that? And
that?
then Minecraft, people are doing as class, because that's another creative outlet for them, and it's also educational.
100%. I think the one thing I talk about, where I want to touch on, and I think the more even I talk about it here, it's maybe not as, other than, I suppose, the fact that it is a word that I recognised, and there was negative connotations with it at that time, and I can celebrate it now with the knowledge that I have of it. But back then, when I didn't know very much about it, and someone was saying to me, "Your child's autistic," I'd be like it did hit me. I said before, and again, it's not for this podcast. It'll be a different one, probably, because I think it's more to do with severe learning difficulties. But it's I think it's a grieving process, and I've never grieved Blake's diagnosis. I've never sat. I've never shed a tear, and that sometimes can be very heavy and all-consuming, and it can kind of what does it feel like? You feel sorry for yourself, right? I'm going to go through this very quickly because I don't want it to get too heavy, but you start to feel sorry for yourself. You start to ask, why me? Why my family? Why us? That's the first thing that comes into your head. Then you start wishing it was different. And this is more to do with severe learning difficulty, so I'll keep it very, very quick. You start to feel, I wish it was different. Then you start feeling guilty for wishing it was different because that's them, and now you're wishing them to be somebody else, but you're not wishing them to be somebody else. And then you start feeling like you are a piece of shit for thinking that. You start thinking that you're not worthy of love. You start thinking that you're a bad human being for thinking that you wish it was different. It's such a minefield. That's probably what I did think when the word autism was given to me.
But it was the learning difficulty, I agree.
But now as I am, 7 years later, 5 years, whatever it is, and I've sort of been through the whole thing and I'm still learning, but I think that that's more to do with the severe learning difficulty. But if somebody gets that diagnosis in the morning of autism and they haven't seen what I've seen in the past 5-6 years, they will also have those feelings. That is completely normal. We're talking about the diagnosis now. It's 100% normal to have those feelings, to feel like you wish it was different. And I wrote a poem on this, and
please don't read it.
I'm not going to read it because it's heavy.
I cried. You read it to me and I cried.
I was out with a good friend of mine at the weekend, and it's not the first time I've been in a bit of bother with it, but we were at the bar and had a few drinks and stuff, and I was in trouble, and I found talking to him, it was good.
I think it's more the learning difficulty. I think that's more, now you don't really have, I think maybe as females it's easier, but I am open. From day one, I cried, I talked about it. It was more the learning difficulty, as you say. But tell me this, actually. Is Messi autistic?
Again, I don't think he's been diagnosed.
Well, I just did diagnose him, so I grieved. It's a grieving process. I had shame in saying that before, I don't know. And it's very isolating. That's what I will say is, from our perspective, even autism, the label was, oh, you labelled your child. Why'd you do that? You're bad. Why did you do that? And I'm like, but my child deserves to be understood. Yeah. We all, as a world, should be changing to learn. Do you know what I mean? What our children are like. Yeah. But I find it very isolating, very lonely. Comparison is the thief of joy. I looked at children similar age doing neurotypical things. And one thing I found hard, which I don't know if it's the autism or the learning difficulty, is Blake loved Paw Patrol. And which is fine. And then we got him the outfits, we got him the things he liked, and now he's too big for them. And as well as that, it's not just, it's also when you're below a certain age, it's, oh, your wee man's grand. Hello, how are you? Now he's older, it's they know immediately. They don't. He doesn't even get that now with a lot of people. That's why I'm please come up and ask the questions. It's oh, he's different. Don't talk to him. Whereas when he's a toddler, hello, wee man, what's your name? And he doesn't answer, and we're going, this is Blake. Whereas now it's
and they don't know how to navigate it. I would kind of let people know fairly quickly because I don't want the awkwardness there. So someone can be oh, hello, how are you? I would say, oh, the man doesn't. He's kind of pre-verbal. He doesn't really speak much, and that they kind of then shut off. They're oh, right, and they don't know how to react. Just oh, is he?
Do you know what
what is it that you find that's difficult with him or different with him? That's just how to react. Just normal. Just talk.
A phrase I think is very fitting and good is assume competence but prioritize safety. Yeah. I just thought of this today. I was thinking how am I going to describe this to people? Assume competence. Now you'll go off somebody's body language, not just a child and adult. If you go too close, you'll soon know it's not, communication isn't just words. Yeah. It's everything. We know our wee man the back of our hand just from a look. I can tell you when he's looking at me, oh, he's scared, he's this, he's that. So assume competence, talk. Yeah. You'll gauge from the parent or the child or the adult, oh, this isn't going to work. But prioritize safety. Always, and for my case anyway, I assume they might run. They might do this. They might, that's dangerous, them scissors. But assume competence as in, oh, how are you today? Do you want me to play Lego with you? Do you want me to do this? Or how's your day been?
Assume that they're going to understand
even with an adult, well, how are you? What's the crack? Whatever you say to anybody else, say it to them. They'll let you know if they're not comfortable. And then
That's
you
right.
can very quickly move on or just go, oh, that's okay, and not make it a big deal.
But you made the point about the I think it was Paw Patrol pajamas. That Blake loved his Paw Patrol pajamas, and I think it was me actually was out that day. I don't know if both of us were there.
We were both there. It was
Both
Primark.
there. Primark and
Primark.
Sligo,
Please
was it?
make older ages of character
Was it
clothing.
Primark and Sligo?
No, it was in Belfast. It was not that long ago.
Primark and Belfast.
We
It was,
were-
that's right. We went down. We were at the markets. I moved across. And it's funny because you're chatting away to people in the markets, and then 15 minutes later you're standing in Primark and you're all business and chatting away about your products, and it's that kind of environment, everybody's bubbly and all, and you're in Primark, and there's just wee moments that hit you where I was going 6 to 7, 7 to 8, going through them. It only goes to 7 to 8 now. It's like, I'm out of them now.
Can we make Paw Patrol cool? Because Hello Kitty's cool for like teenagers. They've brought it back for teenagers. Why can we not have Paw Patrol? I'll wear it.
We should have Paw Patrol hoodies for 30-year-olds.
I'm happy.
I'd wear one. I'd be an
Primark,
advocate for
obviously Primark's going to watch this, but why are we not? You'll wear Paw Patrol.
that. Aye, no bother.
Do you know what I mean? Like I see my brother the other day wearing Lightning McQueen hoodie, and I was like, "You're cool. You're
Your
I'll
brother?
actually." My brother,
Oh, wow.
Anthony, was wearing. Anthony, I'm calling you out. Was wearing a Lightning McQueen hoodie, and I was like, "Ashley, you're cool. I like that."
Fair play to him.
Do you know
That's
what I mean?
cool,
I think
yeah.
it's cool.
That's, I suppose, and that's kind of touching the diagnosis. Then I suppose the
Thank
next
you.
thing probably to
You
finish on
also-
probably everyday life, Danielle, and how. And I know we've talked a good bit through this here about everyday life living with autism, and it's difficult for us not to sound like a broken record again, but we're trying to separate the severe learning difficulty from the autism. What does autism look like in everyday life? That's our understanding of it with our experience. We don't know everything, and every autistic person is different. But for us, with I suppose Blake, it's like there are certain patterns and routines he likes, and that's maybe something that I still find it hard to navigate. Like sometimes Blake's bedtime routine, it's very regimental, and if you miss out a stage, that can throw him off and he doesn't go to sleep then.
Do you know what I'll say though? You're saying you find it hard to navigate. I think you find it hard to navigate me sometimes. Connor walk in and be like, "Oh, is she in a bad mood? Is she in a good mood?" Like,
That's most days.
But you know what we're missing? We're missing a whole thing here of verbal and non-verbal is also important in autism.
Yes, that's
Do
right.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Because and then there's this thing where now somebody, not that they argued with me, but they debated with me. I would say Blake is pre-verbal, so you have non-verbal, verbal. I like the phrase pre-verbal because Blake has lots of words. But there is somebody made a point which is very valid. There's some people that aren't going to get to pre-verbal. They are going to be non-verbal. So
That's right.
let them have their label. I'm like, fair.
100%.
I'm not in your shoes. Another case of when you don't know because you're not living that.
The other thing I would say on that too is, but there comes a point where pre-verbal is no longer pre-verbal, it's non-verbal. So for example, is it not the case that, let's say Blake's 89 years of age and he's got the same language as he has now? I suppose he's not
But he's
pre-verbal.
still,
He still has a
going to
number.
completely cut you down there because there's people that...
He has a number of words.
And there's also, now we don't know enough on this, but I'll mention it because I only learned it recently. It seems like, not that I'm going to give America a pile of credit, but they seem to get more information before we do about a lot of things. Gestalt language processing. We've only learnt this recently for our child. Whenever we looked it up, Gestalt language processing, I can't remember the exact percentage, but a lot of autistic individuals are a Gestalt language processor, where I'm not educated. I'm just going to give what I know of it. For example, they learn chunks of language. There's also echolalia, where you've seen before somebody that knows a whole book, every word of it, every single word of it. And I'm going, I wish I was you. That's so cool.
That's cool.
But they learn chunks of language. And in terms of autism as well, and Gestalt language processing, they might learn it out of context. So they might learn, let's go in the car, and it could mean going anywhere. They learn differently, and that's wrecks my head as a neurotypical, and I'm trying to relearn it. And they also learn in the third person. So when you're trying to teach me, for example, if I was a child, you'd be going, okay, Danielle's going to go for a walk now, and you'll think I'll learn it as I'm going to go for a walk now. I actually talked to Blake's speech and language therapist about it last year and was like, I think he might be a Gestalt language processor. She said it's only come in recently to them that they're learning like that, because they find a lot of older children they've taught are talking in third person. Like Blake could be going, Blake wants to go in the car, because I've said Blake wants to go in the car.
That's right. So you need to.
I
And
love
it's very
this.
strange.
Do it.
Right?
I know what you're going to do.
You have to speak to Blake as if he's saying
In the first person.
in the first person.
Go on ahead.
So if I'm saying 9-8 to Blake, and I'll go 9-8 Blake, love you, and then he maybe doesn't speak back because he doesn't speak without being prompted a lot of the time. So I'll have to prompt him. So I'll say,
I'm gonna clip
I love
this.
you, Daddy.
Wait, I'm going to clip this. Go on ahead.
I'll have to say, I love you, Daddy, because that's what I'm trying
Look
to
at
get
the
him
camera.
to say. This is some sort of weird fetish here. What is this? But you have to do I have to speak to him I have to speak to him with what he should say in that instance back to somebody. And it's just learned behaviour.
The first person.
But the mad thing is, again, I don't know if this falls under autism. We're talking about language now, whether this is the pre-verbal, non-verbal. You cut me down a minute ago and I was thinking about that while you were chatting. Pre-verbal at 89 years of age, would that not be limited verbal?
What are
Because
you
they
trying
have
to-
some
no,
words,
stop.
but they're limited. Just saying. Anyway, I'll go back to my other point. So, with the likes...
You win. No, you don't.
With the likes of Blake, I could say to Blake, whose boy are you? And Blake would say, Daddy's boy, right? In his wee voice. And then if I said to him, who do you love the most? He would say, Daddy's boy. So that is learned behaviour. So one time you said that to me and it registered with him and he said, Daddy prompted me to say back to him, Daddy's boy. So I did. And then he was happy and he gave me a hug and he clapped and said, good boy, well done. So now he associates that that's the right thing to say. So if he hears a chunk of words and it sounds like the other sentence, he doesn't actually understand maybe what you're even asking him or saying to him. He just understands that the last time I replied with this, I got a pat on the back. So I'll say that again. And I read a number of things, and some of them were really fascinating. One of them was that autistic children, sometimes that are non-verbal or pre-verbal, whatever, you ask them a question and they actually do understand what you're saying. But the problem is, I bet that person's saying they understand, they know every word of the book. Every word of the book comes in front of them. Literally in their brain, every word. I
told you this.
And they just have to grab one of the words and they throw it out and hope it's the right word. And
what's it called?
I can't remember what it's called.
No, it's a book I read. It's you're gonna have to look it up.
Oh, the guy who was non-verbal, but
What do
he
you
read the whole
call
book.
is it the boy that jumped or look it up to say it. It's a Japanese boy that learnt to write with a alphabet, and that's what he said. I read it. The Reason I Jump. What you're talking about there is a book I read called The Reason I Jump, and it's about
You must have been telling me that.
a young Japanese boy. I think he couldn't speak, and he learnt to talk through like a device.
And he was saying that he sees
said-
all the words,
Yep.
like
so if you ask
thousands
him
of
a
words.
question, as you said, whatever the question is, he'll see all the responses he's ever said and just pick a random one. But that is just the language process and they learn chunks of information. But it's also important to note that there is autistic individuals that learn to talk through a device.
Yeah.
So Blake has it, can I remember if it's AAC or ACC? I think it's AAC. He's only getting on to his now and it's like wee buttons you press. Do you know what it is? It's when their mind's racing. I could be wrong, but I think autism is they have so many neurons.
They have too many connections.
Do you know what I mean?
Autism
So
is.
it's everything's happening. It gives, for example, when he's overstimulated or dysregulated, it's like I can go over and it's there in front of me and he'll press like mummy or daddy and he's really starting to use that. And
I
it's
want ice
amazing.
cream and he'll
Yeah.
press I want and then the other button is ice cream.
And it can go further and further. Do you know what I mean? To full sentences.
Yeah.
And then in my neurotypical head, it was like, that can't work. That's going to not encourage him to talk, but it's not that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to remember I'm coming from a different stance of a neurotypical where it doesn't make sense to me.
One of the things, and this touches on language, but it also touches on what I had said earlier about wanting to talk about how you feel about things. So one of them was, I remember us sitting, it was a Thursday night. I was in Scotland. I just came home on the boat. It was like 11 o'clock at night. Blake was being difficult. And at this stage, he couldn't say yes or no. And if we asked him if he wanted something, he couldn't say yes or no. And we were sitting and we were like totally broken. It was probably one of the worst evenings that we've had. We were sitting on two different sofas and we weren't even on our phones. We were just sitting and tired and wore out and had a rough day and all those things come into it. And I said, if only he could say yes or no. And sometimes when you feel sorry for yourself now and you think about how hard something is, and it's not that he always says yes or no. Like my next thing now, and it's just human nature.
Move the goalposts.
You move the goalposts. So now, if we were, for example, if Blake was going to bed and he was being a wee bit difficult and we were trying to work out what it was that was like throwing him off, going to sleep, like one of the things was the sliding wardrobe not being fully closed. Like that was just...
Which all makes sense.
It's
I
black
get
and
it.
white.
I get
That's
it.
a door. Why is it not closed?
Yeah. Do your job.
Yeah. So, but trying to work out now, we have to try and work out. And we have got yes and no. So you've got to be clever about it. So instead of saying to Blake, what do you want? Because he's not going to be able to say, I want you to close that door there. He doesn't have that. So you look around and you're like, there's a door open. Do you want this door closed? Yes. Close the door. Is that okay? Okay. So you've got the right answer.
He also
But-
now can point, Connor. If you remember at the start, he couldn't
That's right, he couldn't point to what he wanted.
That was actually one of the things they asked me. That must be another sign. Does he point to things? And he wasn't.
Yeah.
No, that was the next stage, and then it went to some speech.
But now, as a human, I'm going, I want more. So I want to ask you, what do you want? And I want you to give me the answer. Rather than I have to guess what you want and you to say yes or no. But I have to, as I'm doing that and I'm feeling sorry for myself that he's not able to give me the answer. Oh God, I have to go, but hold on a second. Remember the time you wished he could just say yes or no? We're there. Just ask the question in a different way. And you arrive at the same conclusion. It's a wee bit more difficult. It's a wee bit more testing. It definitely has given me a lot more patience. And I'm still impatient. But you get there. It's a way of managing it. I used to say to you at the very start, was like, no, I have no hope. I have no hope of anything because I don't want to have hope. Because it's the hope that'll kill me. That's what, someday I'll wake up. And this is part of why I haven't grieved it either, is because someday I'll wake up at 55 years of age, and this was my theory in my head that this was going to happen. I'll wake up at 55 years of age and Blake won't be able to say yes or no or do anything, and I'll have spent 20 years hoping, and he's 20, and I'll just have a mental breakdown. So it was like, I don't want to have hope, because if I have hope and nothing improves, then I'll have a literal mental breakdown. So I stopped having hope. But then as you get on a year or two, you mature a wee bit into it and you go, you have to have hope. You keep it realistic, but you have to have hope. I think him being able to say yes and no was the first time I was like, there's why you should have hope. And don't give up on it, because there's something there and you can always pull wee bits more out.
Do you know what I'll say? And I don't know if I've said this to you before, but I would credit you for
everything. I know.
No,
Thank you so much.
I'm being serious. I would credit you for, I did grieve the whole thing, which maybe is more the saying, but you're the one, like, you have more patience than me right now. You have far more patience than me. And if anybody knows you, we're not a patient person.
No.
It's you that's like, oh, I just thought about it one day. You said this to me, I don't even know you remember. You're like, it's not about me. This wee man can't talk. He can't tell me what's wrong. He deserves, like you're saying, hope there. And I was always like, you have to have hope. And we were saying one day that he deserves us to fight for him. He deserves to have that life.
The start of it was all ego. I've talked about this before. It's all ego. One of the things of Blake's diagnosis has just really changed everything. It was like, what are you doing? Just enjoy your life. Have fun. And
you change your perspective too, because I'm like, oh, our poor wee man, what, like, is he going to live the typical life, get married and things like that there? And you're like, but sure, we're going to love life, all being well. It'll be me, you and Blake living in retirement.
But it's all ego. All that stems from ego. I want my son to play hurling and do what I done and all that. Whoa. He loves playing with rice. Why are you forcing him to do something different just because you like that? That's your ego talking. Where if you separate your ego and go, hold on a second here, what does Blake love doing? What does Blake need? That's the two questions. And the last question is, how can I help that? That's it. And that then teaches you patience, because you realise it's going to take me a while to figure all this out. And I still don't know the answers a lot of time, but you're figuring wee small things out that help Blake. You need to live in the world that you live in, not the world you want to live in. And you need to make the best cake you can with the ingredients you have. On
that note, you mentioned Italy. I would like you to read a poem, because I'll cry if I read it.
Okay.
That I read whenever we get Blake's diagnosis, so you can read it.
This is actually a very good poem. You read this to me earlier, and it's from 1987 by a lady called Emily Perkin. What is it? Emily Pearl Kingsley. Not Perkin. She's not. What is it? Perking is an engine for a forklift. Perkins engine. But anyway,
cool.
It is, isn't it? So this is not an engine for a forklift. This is actually a poem written in 1987. It gives a soft perspective on it, but it's really good perspective. So anyway, Welcome to Holland by Emily Pearl Kingsley. I'm often asked to describe the experience of raising a child with a disability, to try to help those who have not shared that unique experience to understand it, to imagine how it would feel. It's like this. When you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a fabulous vacation trip to Italy. You buy a bunch of guidebooks and make your wonderful plans. The Colosseum, the Michelangelo David, the gondolas in Venice. You may learn some handy phrases in Italian. It's all very exciting. After months of eager anticipation, the day finally arrives. You pack your bags and off you go. Several hours later, the plane lands. The flight attendant comes in and says, "Welcome to Holland." Holland, you say. What do you mean Holland? I signed up for Italy. I'm supposed to be in Italy. All my life I've dreamed of going to Italy. But there's been a change in the flight plan. They've landed in Holland, and there you must stay. The important thing is that they haven't taken you to a horrible, disgusting, filthy place full of pestilence, famine, and disease. It's just a different place. So you must go out and buy new guidebooks, and you must learn a whole new language, and you will meet a whole new group of people you would never have met. It's just a different place. It's slower paced than Italy, less flashy than Italy, but after you've been there for a while and you catch your breath, you look around, and you begin to notice that Holland has windmills, and Holland has tulips, and Holland even has Rembrandts. Holland even has Rembrandts. But everyone you know is busy coming and going from Italy. They've all been bragging about what a wonderful time they've had there. And for the rest of your life, you will say, yes, that's where I was supposed to go. That's what I had planned. And the pain of that will never, ever, ever, ever go away, because the loss of that dream is a very, very significant loss. But if you spend your life mourning the fact you didn't get to Italy, you may never be free to enjoy the very special, the very lovely things about Holland.
I love that. I think it explains it, because when we get Blake's diagnosis of autism specifically, and people don't know how to talk to me about it, especially friends, family, you feel very, very isolated. That's a good explanation.
It's a good explanation. It's a soft explanation, but...
Not everybody needs more.
No, but we've talked about celebrating autism, and it has to be celebrated. And I don't want to downplay the struggles that autistic people have, and it can be difficult for them, and the parents and the people around them and the carers and even the school structures. There's an element of it all that can be difficult, and I don't want to downplay that. That is a very nice and soft way of explaining it. There are lovely things about autism. There are lovely tulips and windmills about autism. There's no question of that. But you leave behind Italy, something that you never will get to see. You know, I won't get to see things that I had hoped for my child. But again, that's where, through time, your ego will leave.
I think when we look at Italy, that's the world is catered for Italy.
Yeah.
The world has not been catered for Holland.
Yeah. The hard thing with parents in particular and carers of children who have autism is hear the stories about Italy.
There's also the case where, our wee man played his first hurling match, and you're like, oh. Like, you can equally be happy for somebody and sad for yourself. Feelings are important to feel. Like, I know you struggle to feel your feelings. You like to put them in a box and throw them over there under the bed with my dreams, remember?
I put them on the bed along with your dreams here. Never open that box.
No, but I think it's important to feel your feelings. No matter what they are, they're valid. But it's how you act on your feelings. It's the same way we talk about mental health.
Yeah.
It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
I do get jealous of seeing neurotypical children being able to live what would be quote unquote seen as a fuller life. They get to experience the beauty of matrimony, getting married and having children of their own and going through life and having friends. Blake's birthday parties, like, and
I've seen a thing where a person, their child had autism. They couldn't have a birthday party for him because they didn't know if he had friends.
But with the jealousy thing, like, I can be jealous, and it's not a negative type of jealousy. I'm delighted for them. So if I seen one of my friends' children starting hurling at, under 8, I'd be like, that's class. They're getting to experience that with their son. And then there's a wee bit of jealousy in me because I'm human. I'm like, I wish I had that too. But then I'm now at the point where I'm going, that's ego. Just get out of your ego, Connor. This is all ego. And ego's it's complete bullshit. Ego is the art of bullshit.
Just as we said, it all boils down again till this world is made for neurotypical people. We are conditioned to know what we want.
Yeah.
No, but you didn't get that, Connor. Be sad. You're not getting to Italy.
Yeah.
But I actually really like Holland here.
Aye.
You're just not catering to Holland.
Aye, that's right.
But an actual MLA, I'm not sure what his name, it might be Danny, I seen today, which is a very valid point, said that, in terms of the summer scheme, why do the most vulnerable lose out? And you've made them the most vulnerable because the world is not catered for them, so they're vulnerable. Like in autism, we're talking here, obviously we have a severe learning difficulty here, which makes you slightly more vulnerable. But autism doesn't necessarily make you more vulnerable. But it does in a society where it doesn't
Cater
make any...
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're saying it's very hard for you, for example, you could be jealous of somebody playing their sport. But now people are starting to open up and try. A man you played with in Derry hurling, did they not open as at Oakleaf? They now have inclusive... I listened to a podcast he was on, brought me to tears, amazing. I don't know the man, but I'm very proud of that podcast.
Liam is one of life's gentlemen, and I'm very proud of him, to be honest. I'm good friends with him, and how he's handled that, like, it's just, he was my captain. The position he started in was the position that I eventually then ended up playing in as well later on. And he guided me through all that. And that's just hurling. It just shows you the character of the man. He was always a leader. And then whenever it goes to, he's dealt the hands, he's dealt like, and you can just, the way he's carried himself, that is just second to none. Like, it's incredible.
Was it Oakleaf?
Yeah, yeah.
On another note, Coach Ronan comes into our child's school.
Yeah.
He is an angel on earth too.
Yeah, class.
If you want to know how to treat somebody with special needs, look to Coach Ronan. Look him up on TikTok, Instagram. He is brilliant. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, just full of fun.
There's people like that. I made a list of things just that I wanted to say in regards to autism, maybe special needs in general, but these are just things that I think are important. I'm not sure. I'm assuming you're the same, Connor. Safety over everything. If we're going to educate people, it's not just an awareness. Safety over everything. So no matter what, when it comes to autism, special needs, anything, safety first. Sensory needs are needs, full stop. So, for example, when it comes to autism for a child, you can't expect anybody to do work when they're not regulated, when their sensory needs are not met. This is why we've only learnt this in more recent years. It's a case of, why is Blake used to be able to do that, why can't he do it now? He's dysregulated. He needs his sensory needs met before he can think straight. The neurons are flying. Yeah.
It's a hyperactivity in the brain. Not people mistake it for being that they're not as intelligent or not as the connections aren't as strong in the brain. It's actually the opposite. There are too many connections in the brain. That's my understanding of it anyway.
Regulation is essential. So you'll learn your own child or adult, whoever, what their thing is. Stimming is normal. We realised we love to stim too. And you know what? We all actually stim. For example, whenever I'd be sitting and like doing this to my leg or something. We're doing it all the time. Autistic individuals find it harder to regulate themselves because, as we say, everything's going mental. Movement breaks are not optional. So in school, it would be, whenever they're talking about education, it's a case of, do they need a movement break? Some people need movement breaks. Same way we need break. You know what I mean? They'll get out to run about. Autistic individuals or disabled individuals, SEN children, they need movement breaks. So it shouldn't be a debate. Behaviour and body language are communication. We wouldn't have known that at the start. No. It was Blake can't communicate. Blake communicates 24/7 to us.
We just have to you have to see their way of communicating.
Exactly.
So it's different to ours.
And this is important, I think. Now, we've had this experience. Parents' instincts need to be considered on a par with symptoms. So we know Blake better than anybody. This is in regards to autism or SEN. When we go to hospital, and to be fair, a lot of doctors go, what do you think? You know them best. What do you think? So I think that's important. That's education for people that don't know. Whenever a parent comes to you, especially with a SEN child, and goes, I think this, listen to them. And this is important, I think. Awareness is not enough. I think we've gathered that. Education, inclusion, kindness, and equal opportunities are what we need going forward. And
one of the things people will be maybe screaming again at wherever the speaker they're listening to this on or watching it on, equal opportunities. Okay, so we're going to let somebody with special needs fly the aircraft with 300 people on it. That's not what equal opportunities means. There's still going to be a bar that you must hit in order to be able to carry out that task. So if somebody's colourblind, they can't be an electrician, for example. That's not being unequal to them. It's providing safety to everybody. So what equal opportunities means is that they get an equal opportunity to learn and to live in our world. Bearing in mind, it's already difficult for them to learn in our world. We need to try our best to make it a wee bit easier for them. And this is just human, just basic compassion.
An example of that is a lady on TikTok, Katie McGuinness. I just seen it yesterday. Never knew what her job was. She works with autistic individuals, helps them get into employment and stay in employment. And she said yesterday that the funding, she works for a charity, has cut by over 60%. So they now need to do all that work, 100% of the work, with 30-something% of the funding. So this is what you're dealing with. Awareness isn't enough. We need to make moves to let them have equal opportunities. That's exactly what we mean.
We wrote a letter to the Education Authority and I sent it on the 26th or 27th of March, I think it was the day before that they changed their decision. They haven't written back and they think that because they've changed their mind that I'm not going to chase up who the people were responsible. But we'll see. I'm expecting an email back from them, so they're not getting off that lightly. Just because they changed their mind, that doesn't mean that we're going to forget about who done it, and we're going to call them out, and so that they're not cutting more budgets by 60%. And I think it's important. So
you know what is a good one to mention? It just came into my head. I've done a few videos through the last year on things that helped us as SEN parent, and it mentions autism. Is the sunflower lanyard? So that is an indication. If
Yes.
you see in like airports or in work, you'll see them a lot more now actually, that people are wearing them. That indicates not just autism, but I might have a special educational need. So it's to let you know if you're going to talk to me. Some of them say things like the wee card on it might say I am nonverbal, or
Yeah.
give the address, or
Yeah.
I whatever. But it's important to know that. So it's a sunflower lanyard. They're usually green with yellow. And if you have an autistic child or you're autistic yourself, you can get them on Amazon. They're like
Yeah.
£2. We got one.
They're really good for people with hidden disabilities, because you could be chatting to somebody and not realize that they're autistic, and you tell them just head down that way there. You give them directions, head down that way there, and you'll see a big brown door and turn right after that big brown door, and then they go down and they see that it's a slightly red colour, and because they're autistic and they maybe take things completely literally, they walk straight past it. So if you see that lanyard, you go, I've got to give the correct information here. This person has obviously got a hidden disability. They look completely normal, and I just need to spend a bit more time making sure I get it right for them.
I've seen them more often recently, and whenever it's been a couple of years when we were at the airport, but we didn't realise that you can go and when you have a lanyard, you can get special gated access to the plane, because queues are a problem and loud noise.
Yeah.
You can get on earlier, and you can also get for your seatbelt. So it's another I don't know what you call it, but it sticks on, and if you're in an accident, it can say, I am nonverbal.
Yeah.
You're saying, are you all right? Can you get out? Can you hear me? You'll know from looking at it that they aren't able to respond.
Yeah,
so I think they're very important and a brilliant thing. I see them a lot now.
They're class. All them wee small things make your life a wee bit easier, and that's all it is trying to make life a wee bit easier for the people who have autism, and for the parents of people who have autism, and I suppose to a certain degree learning difficulties and different things as well. So but yeah, hope that wasn't too heavy.
I hope we have...
We'll have to edit it now to make sure it's not too heavy.
No, I hope we have talked in a respectful way to Blake and to autistic people. Yes, the technical language is autism's a disability. I genuinely, I'm not just saying this as a cheesy thing. I do believe it's a different ability, because our world just does not cater for autistic individuals. I wish I was still alive in years and years to come and decades to realise, you know what I mean? Because it's one of them things that the same way they're going, oh, people weren't labelled back in our day, and now they are. And now you look at, for example, the grannies and grandads and go, how long, as you say, your train set we're not allowed to touch. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Granda has got
to
his
be
knife
there.
and fork out that nobody else is allowed to eat with.
I think it gave me real hope whenever the Sen summer scheme, that was just from our perspective. There's obviously loads of other things. It's just our life that we're living.
Yeah.
When everybody stood up so quickly, it just made me really proud. And I was genuinely, we
class.
do write it down. Like, I am so
It was
pleased
class.
with that.
But then I love that kind of solidarity and any sort of movement,
Yeah.
You know what we'll finish on? We'll finish on things not to say to autistic parents or parents of children with special needs. I'll start.
Okay.
Everybody has a wee bit of autism in them.
Oh, you can have traits that are similar to autism or anything. Like, it's like saying I'm quiet.
Aye.
Like, that doesn't mean you're autistic. It annoys me, because
Special children are made for special parents. No, don't say
that's
that.
not fair.
Don't say that.
I might contradict that partially, is like people saying special children for special parents. I don't want to put people off talking to you either.
I know
because
that too,
you
aye.
do, like I do, like you kind of like roll your eyes a bit, but I'm like, at least you're engaged with me.
They're
and you're
trying.
not
They're
pretending.
doing their best. They don't know. This is why we're
This is
saying is that don't be nervous talking to somebody with special needs or the parent. Just be normal. Just another one. Did he have his injections at one stage?
No, don't. I'm not doing that.
Did he have his
I'll leave.
injections?
I'm gonna cut the cameras.
And they're like, all right, so what other conspiracy theories are we going to go on to here? And then what you do is, like, someone said to me one day, and then I can't remember which conspiracy theory. I think I used like an absolutely wild conspiracy theory back to them. It was like, I know he did get his injections, but did you ever hear this one? And then I said something like mad back, and they were like, that's bullshit. And I was like, hello.
However,
Your conspiracy theory wasn't? What else have I that's things not to say to special needs parents?
I wasn't prepared for this. I don't know.
I do think there's more autism nowadays.
No, do you know one I got?
Oh, okay, so let's just break that down very quickly. There maybe is more, but the problem with that is absolutely no human being on earth can provide any data for that. Do you know why? Because there was a point in time where it was not being diagnosed. It wasn't known about. It's like saying there are more rates of cancer nowadays than there ever have been. And you go, are you sure about that? Maybe all the coal mines where people were dying at 38, you know, but cancer wasn't a known thing back then in the 1827. So maybe there actually might have been just as much, or if not maybe even more,
Do you know-
but it wasn't diagnosed.
Do you know what's another one? Like, you'll not even know this, but I'll know it. See, when they're diagnosing,
Yeah.
or they're taking any information for, this is for learning difficulty or autism, was your child breastfed? You're going, why does that matter? What kind of birth did you have? And I get that there could be birth trauma, but
Yeah.
was it a water birth? Was it this? But why is that actually relevant? You tell me I done the wrong birth, because immediately you go,
I
well, was
start
that wrong?
questioning yourself.
Should I not have had him in the water? Should I,
Yeah.
I breastfed some of them. Was that wrong? Like, we'll not get onto that. I'm not going to do it. It's too late at night. What time? We're at half
Don't know,
11
but
at
we
night.
do need to go. This
Not
has been a
happening.
long episode. I think this one will probably end up being over an hour. I'm going to edit it, but make it as long as it needs to be, because I think that there's some... Maybe, the problem with this is too, is we're talking, we could be rambling on and maybe saying the same thing a few times over, because it's really, really difficult to talk about this.
I'm so impressed I haven't actually properly cried, because I cried thinking about it today. I've thought about this over and over again and been like...
I don't think it would any bother that, but I have struggled to talk about it. I struggled to even talk and discuss it. I automatically go, I don't want to talk about it. Just don't talk to me about it. Leave me alone. But I think it's important to talk about.
It's important. And I promised from the start of this that I would try to be Blake's voice as before I done social media or anything, and I'm going to keep trying. Something for me very cathartic, learning about autism while raising our son. Like, trying to set the learning difficulty aside. There is a real beauty in autism. This is what I take from it.
Yeah.
And he slows me down. From my perspective, he's made me a better person. Not that I think I was a bad person before, but I'm more patient now. I see beauty in things that I would have went on past. Before I had Blake, I was seeking perfection, probably like a lot of that generation. I was in the gym flat out. I was doing my degree, got top of my class, pushed myself to the limits to try and prove a point. I was a young mummy and I was going to do well still. Blake came along. Yep, 2 girls, a boy. Look at me, got a lovely wee boy, 2 girls. And then when I got the diagnosis of autism, I was like, hold on. Strip it all back, as you say. This world isn't catered for my son. This isn't good enough. He deserves, he's happy. That's what we forget. Yes, the neurotypical things that we maybe hope for might not happen, but he is happy. We need the world to be navigated for him. He deserves to be, get his education, to be supported, to get his summer scheme, to get into employment if he's fit for it. We all need to come together, and not just awareness. We need to talk about everything. We need to open up more, as much as you find it hard and I'm finding it hard. We're happy to talk about it now as much as we can, and hopefully other people do too. And then we seen the example. There was no case of movement on the summer scheme. We got the list through. Within 24 hours it was turned over. So it's important to speak up, to be the voice of the vulnerable that they have deemed vulnerable, because that's the position they put them in. And I think autism's amazing, genuinely. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's the learning difficulty that I really struggle with. Autism, I see such beauty in it. It's a privilege for me to raise my son and learn beside him. And I'm not going to cry saying it. No, I'm going to cry. Wait. I think he'll teach me more about the world than I'll teach him.
Well, I was going to say, Blake's taught us more than anybody, I would say, on this planet in terms of how to carry yourself, because he stripped ego completely away from me, and
I'm going to cry
and
the
that
last
has-
2 minutes of it.
he stripped ego completely away from me, where it's like, look, this is the cards you're dealt, and you've got a wee man that needs you, and you need to step up, and see all this other bullshit, like, just forget about it, catch yourself on.
Yep.
And then I look to other people, like the likes of Liam, who have been really inspirational to me, to see how they carry themselves and stuff, and you're just trying to do that and try and, I suppose, make them proud and do your bit. And so hopefully that wasn't too heavy.
Yeah.
I'll have to edit it down. What are we on, Nathan? An hour and what?
2 hours.
2 hours, bang on.
Cheers. Wow, there we go. There, we thought we'd struggle. We can't stop talking.
I'm going to edit it down, but I'm not. It'll be probably a long episode, because it's really, really hard to talk about this. Like, it's really, really testing. So, but it's important. So it's done now.
I think we'll end with, again, happy World Autism Day.
Yep.
Happy Autism Awareness Month. And we are trying our best to be our son's voice that is autism.
Yeah.
We're trying, we maybe have got a lot of things wrong there, but we're trying, which is important, I think. That's what we tell our children to do, to try, even when you don't know everything. We are only educated in terms of our son, and that's individual to him. Autism's a massive spectrum. You have verbal, non-verbal, things like that. But very happy and proud that people have backed us when the Send Summer Scheme won.
Yeah, it's class.
And we're going to try our best to help other causes and other things with autism. And if anybody is struggling or needs help or wants to talk, or DMs are open, I'll try my best to get back.
Yeah.
I'm sure you will too.
I do, but it takes me a few days sometimes. Like at the minute, I haven't been on social media in about 2 weeks.
I'm struggling a bit too with catching up with things like that, but I just want people to know they're not alone.
No.
And, you know, we are autism parents. Yeah, I think the more we talk, the more educated people are, and it's not just a case of awareness, it's
action.
changing.
Yeah, changing
making
things.
This
making it better.
world more suited, not just to neurotypical, not just to neurotypical, but neurodivergent people as well.
Yeah, hopefully it wasn't too heavy, and it's been reasonably informative and helpful to somebody out there.
Yeah.
We'll get it edited down so we don't have to listen to 2 hours, but yeah, all good. Thanks a million. Thanks for listening,
Bye.
folks.